Oh, hey. It's time to go live. It's time to go live. What's up, y'all? Happy Wednesday. Y'all know what day it is, what time it is.
Wednesday. It's
It's
SW
6:30.
Podcast.
It's time for the podcast. We are here. What day is it? Oh, March 16th. It's Wednesday, March 16th. We are ready to get with y'all, have fun with y'all, and just have a good time. We got a special guest on today. So when we have interviews, y'all know we learn about our wonderful people, and we only bring people on that matter to what we got going on, or that got some wonderful things going on in our communities, and just good stuff. We don't just bring anybody on the show, because we could talk to them any time of the day. But these conversations are prolific, and they're astounding. We'd like to learn about the people who are serving us. So today, y'all, we are going to bring on I was trying to go up here to my thing, to my video. I said I had a video.
Before you
Now,
bring
let me
him
go
on,
to my video now. Stop playing with me.
the one and only.
Let me go to my video. We're gonna bring Mr. Terrance Barber on. And when we bring him on, y'all, I have a video clip to show y'all about the many hats. The name of this interview today is The Many Hats of Mr. Terrance Barber. So we're gonna learn about those hats today. So everybody, let's welcome Mr. Terrance Barber to the stream.
Hey,
The one and only.
how y'all doing?
How you
doing?
doing?
How you doing?
I'm good. I'm blessed.
I know that's right. I know
That's
right.
Glad to
All
be
day
That's
long.
what it is.
Thank
That's
y'all
what
so
it
much.
is.
Thank y'all so much.
So welcome to our virtual studio. Terrance and I was working on getting this to be out in an actual live setting, but schedules and stuff collide, and Mr. Barber wear many hats, so he have last minute things going on too, and that's what we here to talk about: the many hats of Mr. Barber, how things can change from 5 seconds ago to in 10 minutes. It may have to be this way. So let's learn about Mr. Barber. But before we get into our quote of the day and learning about Mr. Barber, I'm gonna show you guys a quick little video that was put together today to kind of give y'all a little bit of an insight. He ain't even seen this, so
a video clip.
It's a photo video, so we're just gonna give y'all a little bit of a footage of Mr. Barber in action. All right, just not to put you on the spot, not to make everybody have to see you. They can come out and see that, but not to put you on the spot. But how do you balance? How you balancing?
Man, faith and prayer and preparation. I try to make sure that I have my schedule not too overcrowded, but a lot of it, man, is a faith walk. I wish I could sit here and say that everything was just so well planned and organized, and I didn't kind of run around some days wondering which direction I'm going. But I think that I think I work better sometimes in the midst of chaos. So sometimes it's not as well thought out and well planned as some people may see fit, but it tends to work itself out. So
that's when you get the best results anyway.
Exactly.
That's when you get the best results anyway.
I work right under pressure.
Yeah. Well, the good thing about that is it don't look like it's something that you put that you having to fix at the last minute, or that you having to do in the midst of things. So we're gonna learn a little bit more about Mr. Barber, but we got a quote of the day, Terrance. I'm gonna call you Terrance the whole time, but but you are Mr. Barber. We have a quote of the day that is representative of change, and a lot of times people expect you to be the same person they met 10 years ago, or the same person they met 15, 20 years ago. And this particular quote sets a whole different tone for that. So The quote of the day is, every day the clock resets. Your wins don't matter. Your failures don't matter. Don't stress on what was. Fight for what could be. Mr. Sean Higgins.
Mm.
So
That's a good one.
Powerful. That's powerful.
what you think about that? How you feel about that?
I mean, you get the opportunity in this life to reset, recharge, refocus as many times as you need to. I forget who said it, but there's always been a prolific quote that I live by, and it's, even if you're not ready for the day, it can't be night forever.
Oh yeah.
No.
Forever.
Or morning.
I mean, like in the Bible, I mean, God took his people to the wilderness for 40 years.
Yeah.
40 years they were in the wilderness before they delivered him. So people have an opportunity to change. I think that's the beautiful thing about life. And I mean, you have an opportunity to not be the same person you were 5 seconds ago. You choose to do. And yeah, I mean, your failures don't matter. At the end of the day, like, those are lessons that matriculate, that taught you how to deal with the present. So, you know, even when I look back at my own personal journey and struggles and everything else that I went through in life, I wouldn't change it because it made me the man I am today.
Yep. I feel like that. I feel like anytime you have the opportunity to look back and say, oh, I did that, I learned from that, I did, you know, it was like, if you living and you're not able to see the discrepancies in some of the walks that you chose, then you didn't grow.
Right, you're not growing. Right,
you're not you still stunt. You had a stunt. You can pretend well in front of people. You can act a certain type of way to try to get people to try to get people to see that you this way, but in actuality, you got to go home every night
and sleep
and face that person.
Right.
And take off all that baggage that you're trying to carry on to fulfill other people's hopes and dreams of who you are, instead of being who you are. So to me, this quote exactly stands on that. It speaks directly about that. Queen, you want to add to that?
No, it's a powerful quote. But the thing is, what you said, Terrance, about them being in the wilderness, they weren't delivered until they believed. When they started believing, and that's when they got delivered. When they started, so it's all about what you put out there. And if you believe that you can do what you're doing, you're gonna do it.
Right.
It's just that simple. But everybody haven't tapped into that side of that.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. So, and again, the quote says, every day the clock resets. Your wins don't matter. Your failures don't matter. Don't stress on what was. Fight for what could be. So if you just think about if our parents decided to give up on us,
right.
or if they just said, if they do one more goddamn thing,
right,
I'm done. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're cut off because of a decision you made, and it was something that you decided to do just out of sheer stupidity, lack of knowledge, trying to fit in, whatever things, we are human. We fall, we falter.
Right.
Yeah.
But if our parents decided to do those things, and at like every day was the same day, we would not have gotten the lessons we needed to learn. Our failures wouldn't have mattered to our parents. That's you done did this, I'm done. That's enough. It's like, instead of them accepting, that what they did accept from us, because they got fed up, we get fed up. So but we still have to be the soldiers for our children, just like our kids gotta be soldiers for themselves and for their children. We can't teach them to be so easy to give up on things. And so that's the quote. Exactly. So, Mr. Barber, Terrance,
hey.
give us a little bit of history about the journey, how you got on this journey. Because you weren't always wearing like the 12 hats you wore, but at some point you still wore many hats. How did you get to this particular portion of your journey?
I think the way I got here where I am today, probably started this chapter of my life probably started with Working Class Wednesday. Prior to, and I'll explain what Working Class Wednesday is for those that may or may not know. But prior to, even then, like when I was a little younger, I always knew that God created me like to be a leader. Like He created me to like not just sit around and go with the flow of everything else that was going So even as far back as when my uncle and my father had the indoor flea market on the south side, and then we moved to South Adams, and I started Heart of the City Entertainment back when we were doing like club promotions and events and traveling and doing all sorts of things. I just knew, and I was doing like mixtapes for local artists and just putting together things that actually brought the community together. And I think that was just the walk that God had me on. Like you said, or like we all humans, so I was still developing even into the person that I am now. And at first, when I started Working Class Wednesday, I didn't know why I was doing. People ask me like, "Well, why did you start this? Why did I?" Just an idea I had that, you know, at the time I didn't even own a business. So they were like, "Well, why were you so fervent about trying to help small businesses when you didn't yourself own a business?" I was like, well, I think I was just being obedient, I guess, to what the calling was, because I couldn't answer that question. I never could. But now that I sit here and doing the things that I'm doing now, it all starts to make sense because I needed this body of work for the next of my life. So God was preparing me and connecting me with people. And it was a selfless act, because at first, like I said, when I started, I was doing it merely to help empower other people. And now that I need the support to be able to get into a situation where I'm able to continue empowering my people, the support is definitely there.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
That's a great way to outline what made you lead to where you are now, because you have the Working Class Wednesday, you have the Capital Connections, and we have you in line to be our next county commissioner.
County Commissioner, District 1, Leon County.
Leon County. That's an applause itself right there.
Exactly. So what about that? What about that makes this walk important for you? What about those three things that have, because those first two helped the first one accumulated to the next one, and then now you have the next one. How did you get there? What you doing? What you got going on, bro?
I mean, I think that every day I try to figure out how can I mean, it's cool to make dollars, but I mean, until you really have a change mindset that you actually want to change things. Like I got children in this community. I have nieces and nephews and younger folks growing up in this community. And I would just say that even from like when I was in high school, like not a lot has changed in our communities of color. And that's from Frenchtown all the way through the South Side. Like we don't see much change. So as I started researching and started understanding local government and how it works and how money is displaced or dispersed when it comes to communities of color, I just felt like there was a role that needed to be filled. With all due respect to the current commissioner, I just feel like until we have a more inclusive community, whereas we are asking the community what they need instead of assuming what they need, I think that we're going to remain stagnant. I mean, right now we got 32304 is the poorest zip code in the state of Florida. Like that's atrocious. Like this is the capital city of the state of Florida with 2 major universities. FAMU has been educating Black folks in Tallahassee since 1887. Why do we still have so many poor Black communities? And that to me was a call to action.
And we have one of the biggest, one of the most well-known universities in the NCAA that's in that community.
Right.
Which makes it even more atrocious.
Doak Campbell Stadium sits in the middle of 32304.
Right.
Wow.
Right. So, hello everyone that has joined on and came in the comments. Hey y'all, we're not we coming into the conversation. You'll see that we're talking to Mr. Terrance Barber today, and we're learning a little bit about him and the many hats that he wears. We have a question for you, Terrance. It says, "What is the role of the county commissioner?"
So the commission is broken up into districts. Each commissioner has a vote, and it's the allocation of funding. Mostly is what the commissioner does. So if there's a proposal on the dais, then each commissioner gets a chance to weigh in and then vote on the appropriation of funds, where the money should go. As in, we also have an IA board, which is the city and county commission conglomerate, which is what was just latest in the news about the Doak Campbell Stadium vote. Each commissioner had an opportunity to weigh in and vote whether or not we would bankrupt our blueprint funds to go to Doak Campbell Stadium. So it's important that we have people in office that actually look out for the community. Not saying that we don't presently, but I would think that if everyone is saying no, don't do this, it's not what we voted for you to do, and you do it. I mean, you would think that there must be some other intention there. So the main role for a county commission, I think, and what we need to add to that is communication with the community, because that's the first thing. I mean, while we're campaigning and canvassing, we all want to be seen, we all want to be heard, we all want to become likable, in order to earn your vote. But it seems that as people progress in that seat, that sometimes a disconnection occurs, and I think that comes with time in a lot of situations.
Yeah.
Unless even with relationships, I mean, sometimes you just need to reboot. You know what I mean? In order to keep going forward. And I think that, I mean, with no term limits on local elected officials, I mean, it's just time for change. Respectfully.
Time for change.
I think the whole the thing of whether or not people are in the position and then they, get comfortable in their role. When that starts to happen, there needs to always be new people coming in, and showing face to what needs to be changed in the community. Because if you allow the people to get comfortable in a position that they're supposed to be serving the people, then who are you serving? So the question changes, then the perspective changes, and the knowledge. I'm very invested in wanting to get people learning more about local votes, local situations, things that's going to help you locally. I mean, you do whatever you want to do on a national level. That's your business. But in your local community where you pay taxes, where your children go to school, where the people who you work under, and they supposed to be serving you, end up serving themselves more, then we got to start making some changes. So it's time to see new faces.
Right. And the most profound thing about it is most other demographics of people have a culture of cultivating new leadership. They take one person or take some group of people under their wing, and they cultivate them into carrying a passing the baton to continue the growth of their communities. But seems as if we as a people get into these seats and claim them as if it's like a lifelong.
All right. Yeah.
It do need to be a cap on the time.
Even if it's not a cap on the time, if you can be in that position, but if you're doing the job and the things because it always should be a liaison between the community and the commissioner.
Right.
There should always be somebody in the middle that can make sure that commissioner knows, because the commissioner cannot, which I meet like once a month.
And it's, I mean, it's in the middle of the day, and what I've seen
in the middle of the day
was so, but the way it's set up now was so disenfranchising. Is like when I go to these commission meetings, like there's very few people that look like me in these meetings, because most of us are at work, running our business. Even, this is a college town. All of the students are at school. Our biggest voting demographic in District 1 are college students who have no idea what's going on with local government until something is politicized, like the Doak Campbell vote. Now everyone's paying attention to funding and local government. But when Black communities weren't getting their fair share right outside the gates of the stadium, like no one knew. So it's like we have to have that kind of open dialogue and transparency in order to empower our community that may or may not even know what's going on. And like the young lady asked the question, a lot of people I meet don't even know what the job of a commissioner is. So it's hard to dictate whether or not they're doing a good or a bad job when you have no idea what their job is.
Exactly. Very, very well said. Very detailed. It explained a lot more than what you even started with, with answering her question, because it gave you more knowledge of what the whole commission role. You guys, like she said, as long as the job is being done efficiently and effectively, who in the seat don't matter if they look like us or don't look like us, if they're doing the job properly. But if you do look like us, we expect you to remember who you serving, especially when you're thinking about your district. and the people who laying out in your district, going out every day, some of them low income, is I think middle class pretty almost depleted. But whatever, whoever those people in those communities, if you're serving those people, they should know who you are, not just during election time, but they should know that they got a passage, like I said, that liaison to get that information to you about what needs to be done in the community, so that you are not getting too up here and you can't see the people below no more.
Right, right. And the first thing I would implement is a community discussion. Like every month, we may switch neighborhoods. One month we might be at Walker Ford. 1 month we might be at Dade Street Community. But we have to meet people where they are. Like people want to know what's going on. If people knew all the programs and opportunities that were privy to folks that don't have to go to work every day or can have time to pay attention. I think in the community where they always tell us we need to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. But that starts with local leadership.
Exactly.
If we're not privy to the information, if we don't know, like my people perish due to a lack of knowledge. And if we continuously keep the veil up, where people, of course, people are busy. People are busy trying to just make ends meet a lot of times. But I think that until we have a more effective communication between local government and the actual community, then we will continuously be overlooked.
That's true.
That's very true. Tell us about a fear that you've overcome in this walk.
In this current walk.
You can tell us any walk.
Oh, it's a process. I think that a lot of times we're taught that not to care about what other people think about you, but in this current phase of my life, that is one of the biggest things that you must. Perception
is everything.
Right. So that in itself, of course, it's an open book once you put your name on that public record to jump on the ballot. In which I'm not ashamed of anything, but I think that people have this misconception of what the perfect leader is. I think that people want pristine, well-educated people. I put it to you like this. I sit on a lot of boards and I go into Zoom meetings with people to talk about gun violence and youth incarceration. Nobody in the Zoom has ever even been to Facebook jail before. So I'm trying to understand how can we get answers to these problems and these issues with people that have no lived experience, have no knowledge whatsoever outside of what they read in a book, have and no connection with the actual community to get the community engaged with what they're saying. So I think
hasn't that how it's always been? Hasn't that how it's always been?
That's how it's always been. You mean as far as what leadership looks like?
Leadership people.
And I think that may be one of our downfalls in our communities of color, because we expect people to relate to us that don't. And a lot of times, simply because people look at you does not mean that they can relate with your struggle, because of course we all come from different walks of life. So I think that with me growing up, and I did go to college and graduated, but I had my pitfalls along the way. So I was able to take those lessons in life and through my experiences and be able to attribute that to the leadership skills that I've developed. So aside from all of the struggles I had, I also went through Leadership Tallahassee, which was, the Greater Chambers leadership course for the leaders of the community, which most of our local elected officials have gone through that process. I sit on the board at the Office of Economic Vitality. I'm the membership director for the Big Bend Minority Chamber of Commerce. I sit on the board at Tallahassee Leon County Federal Credit Union. I'm one of their chair people. I sat on the board at Tallahassee Community College and their foundation board. So yeah, it's like life has taught me that your struggles can turn into your successes. It's just the way that you develop and deal with them throughout that stage of your life. So yeah, I think that the transparency part and the not wanting people to know your business, minding your business type deal, and not caring what people think about you, it's like now you have to be an open book. And I think that part of this journey was probably the most difficult for me, because I've always had an attitude of, you know, if you don't pay my bills, you know what I mean? Like that attitude that we were taught, like, don't worry about what people think about
worry
you.
about what nobody thinks.
I think that's still the attitude to have, but you
Right,
still
but I mean,
gotta,
you have to explain yourself now.
Yeah.
And
and
that
that's, but I think the reason why we're having to explain ourselves more, and because this hold on, let me, before I say that, this is an all love, I'm gonna disclaimer this statement. This is an all love show. I love y'all. I don't know if y'all listen to my show regularly or not, but I'm a lover of my people. I love me. I love us. I love this. But what I'm gonna say is the majority of who the people who we have to explain ourselves to look like us.
they look just like
And
us.
and
The most
and
judgmental.
Always.
we say we want to relate to the person who leading us,
Right.
but when we
Yeah.
get somebody who relate to
Your needs. Right.
it's such a disconnect. So, and you know, and a lot of that is and it's a cultural, it's a cultural disappropriation period when it comes to that. Our misappropriation comes within community itself, with the love of one another and how we treat one another, and then the expectations of self when it comes of others, when it comes to people who don't look like us. Like again, like you stated, we can't expect people who don't look like us to understand what we're going through. They're going to be sympathetic, but not empathetic. So there's a total difference with that. And we got to start to realize that people who look like us, that are showing actual empathy for our situations because they've been in the situations, overcome the situations, and now they're trying to fix the situation.
The actual situation. Right.
Stop damning them and start pushing them up, lifting them up. Everybody got a pass. Everybody has shit that they had to overcome, barriers. I mean, we expect too much of people, and we done probably did worse.
Right. We all human.
You know, so I think that once we start to, us personally, start to have a better acceptance for who representing us, it'll be easier for the other people. We won't, that's because we barely care about what other people of other colors and races think about us.
We just care about what our own race think.
Because it'd be negative. If they were saying more positive, we'll care.
Right.
But you know, support goes a long way. We got a comment that says, knowing what he's about and the changes he's prepared to make has made me think about community voting and how important it is. We do need more African Americans in these types of roles. Definitely.
And you know what the saddest part about local politics right now, of course, District 1 encompasses about 50,000 registered voters from Frenchtown all the way to Leon County side of Woodville. And historically, and this is prior to 2018 when convicted felons were restored the right to vote. I have to go back and get those numbers as to how many eligible convicted felons have actually gone and registered to vote. But looking at the numbers and how skewed they are when it comes to voter turnout in communities of color, we should not have elected officials in 50,000 person districts winning elections with 10,000 votes. That just should not happen. And historically in this community, that is what is happening over and over and over again. The numbers continue to shrink to like a 20% voter turnout. Like, and we talk about on a statewide and national level about voter suppression and the man putting situations in place, whereas we aren't allowed to vote. And then we don't have that situation here. And it's just like we suppress ourselves from voting. And I don't know if it's a disconnect.
It's the lack of knowledge.
But how important that is, or if it's just a redundance of the same cycle, no matter who's in office. This is what our neighborhood looks like. And I think the unique situation in this community is we've had the same commissioner for 27 years.
That's what I'm saying.
So
you got to think about that. Think about that. If voting in these districts are dropping and the same face keeps showing, They don't believe
somebody new.
in, they don't believe in the powers that be.
All right. I've been told by several more seasoned saints, like, oh, I know you ain't trying to. I'm like, ma'am.
That's crazy. And you know what? And I'm gonna be honest with you, and them the biggest turnout. And them, and to be perfectly honest, those are the ones turning up to vote them, keep them in there.
Yeah.
Them the ones that show up to do that. You know what I'm saying? We got, oh, my grandma was one of, she don't play about that. She gonna do her ballot.
Right.
The people who she know in this community, I know this name. It ain't what they do, it's the names they know.
The name she know.
So if listen, and I'm saying, and it might be ignorance, but that's dedication. That's dedication. We ain't got people dedicated to us in our age brackets and the younger communities. Right. These older people are dedicated to their people. They're gonna go out there, they're gonna vote, they're gonna keep them in their seats.
Because a lot of times these people remember when they couldn't vote.
Exactly. So they showing up.
They went through the struggle of not
having, that's what it is too,
certain rights and being alienated from certain things. But we have just grown accustomed to feel like this is our natural born. I mean, I don't know. It's a huge disconnect, especially with our younger generation, and we have a distrust when it comes to local government. We don't feel like our vote matters or our vote counts, but trust me, they do count the votes. They have a system in place. I'm not gonna say it's a perfect system, but of course, until we at least try to promote change, I think that, we can't fault anyone else for not changing things for us.
That's true.
How do you feel about protecting your mental health?
Man, it's a huge thing. I'm actually in the process. I think that mental health and therapy and counseling and drinking your water and exercising and taking mental breaks and things of that nature are super important. I talk to my fiance about it all the time, but I think I'm scheduling more therapy sessions because I know she's not my therapist and she get tired of hearing about politics all the time. So I'm gonna take some of that burden off of her, and also for me to just unload and unpack. Of course, even when you're in a leadership role, that doesn't mean you don't have a personal life.
Right.
Got to decompress.
And children and dealing with deaths in the family and all those things that come with age. So you have to have that sort of outlet. And of course, your best friends and your colleagues aren't your therapists. And if you want to have a more confidential conversation, you need to get somebody that get you to sign a piece of paper.
Got the license.
Right. That these things in the room. Of course,
it's important. It's very important.
It's hard to just pray about it, but no, we need to pray and act. Pray and act. So while you're praying, I think that your mental health is definitely important, especially when you're juggling life and personal relationships and career and everything else that comes with it. So yeah, I think that's very important.
And then anything where you don't work at it is pretty much not happening right for you anyway. If you're not working toward it, how do you expect any change or any growth from that? Our mental health is one of the biggest aspects. Now we're focusing as a community on mental health more because we know how serious it is when it comes to things that are happening to us in our communities, outside of our communities, just in everyday life. So I'm glad that you are taking your mental health serious because the least people who in our community, the Black men are the people who are the least who care about their mental health. You guys will push that stuff to the back burner and act like it ain't bothering you and try to just keep going. And then next thing you know, you done had a stroke.
And I went through the majority of my life like that. Like we were taught to just keep going, hurt and keep going, hurt and keep going. But I think that as I did discover what therapy was, you didn't have to be crazy to go see a therapist because there is that stigma in communities of color based on mental health and therapy and things that your therapist is not a psychiatrist. That does not mean that they're going to give you some medicine when you leave there.
Sitting on the couch. Look at this picture. What do you see in this black and white?
Right.
Only time you got somebody writing that type of prescription is if you already done got sent there by a psycho ward.
Right. And it's like, you have to understand that we dealt with a lot of traumatic situations, even in childhood, that we still are burdened by.
Yes.
That baggage. So our stress level is here all day, and then when some one little tiny things happen, now our stress is through the roof, and we got to, like you said, we have to decompress and release those
Have
things.
to. You better.
You better.
Whew.
You better.
What would you do to challenge anyone working on their journey to be a politician, to create this is 3 areas you can go. You don't got to choose your lane when I throw this one out here. What would you challenge someone on their journey that's walking into wanting to be a politician, whether or not they wanted to be the voice of a radio station or the face of a brand? What would what would you do to challenge them going on any one of those journeys?
I would say that the one thing that is across the board in all 3 walks is do the work. Like, hard work works. There is no substitution for hard work. I know people say work smarter, not harder. No. Listen, at the end of the day, if you want to excel, if you want to be the best, if you want to lead anything, any community, you're going to have to work hard. You're going to have to stay focused, even when life, I mean, realize it's okay to fall, like just fall forward. Like, a lot of people are so intimidated by failing that they never even try. And it's like, even with the political realm, like, people are like, well, what if you lose? How do I lose? What do I lose? What do I do? I mean, like, what do I try again? Like what is a loss if I inspire 10,000 more people who wouldn't even voted to vote? If I get 10,000 convicted felons who weren't even thinking about voting to vote, like, what do I lose? So it's like, do the work. Like, and you have to be sure of yourself, because if you want to convince someone else to follow you, you need to be following God first, but make sure that you are in alignment with the calling that God has on your life. And of course, we all human. So, I mean, we beat ourselves up a lot. So I would challenge anyone, like, listen, you have no idea how many nights I sit up in the bed and look at the ceiling. Not because of my own personal journey, because now that I have so many people watching and depending on me, that you don't want to let those people down. People are now investing in this campaign, and you don't want to let those people down. So there's a burden that comes with these hats. These hats heavy. I know I got a big head. Listen, the weight of all this, of trying to carry all of this, and at the same time be a father, a fiance, and all these other things. But I mean, like, I might ask God to eat, so He put a lot on my plate. So, and I understand that my commitment to this community, and always be committed to what you're doing. Like, I started this journey with a commitment to my community, and no matter what chapter of this journey I'm in, that commitment will remain the same.
And that's really big, because, no matter how, sometimes no matter how much you ask to eat, you still can't get too full. Like, you ain't never full, because you ask for it. Like, think about that. Like, if this is for you, this journey that you're going on is for you, half of the time you're gonna feel the pressures of what you got going on, but it never feels like it's too much.
Right.
It never feels like it's too much.
It can be a lot.
It can be a lot. But passion about it, the passion for what you're doing, makes you realize that, okay, like you said, you got people watching now. You got people depending on that now. So even if you are not Commissioner Terrance Barber, which we know you're going to be Commissioner, they still look at you as WCW Terrance Barber, Capital Connections Terrance Barber, the young lady's father. So your hats, regardless, you're going to go again in the next term, and you do it again. You know what I'm saying? It's not something that because if you show them how easy it is to stop, they're gonna think that why should I push?
Right.
And your walk is to show them that it can be done.
And I think that one of the most prolific things a person can do in this life is show the fallen how to get up. Like, it's easy to represent winners. Like,
yes.
But to be able to reach back and show people who have fallen just like you how to get up and continue to run the race, I think is one of the most selfless acts that a person can.
The underdog. I always root for the underdog. The underdog always rise. Underdog always rise.
Right. Yeah. Old keys won't open new doors.
The underdogs really be so special, though. They really be
very special.
Right.
They really be
The
special.
dog in the fight. Size of the fight in the dog.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah.
Define your idea of preservation.
Ooh. Preservation. Understanding that you're gonna have wounds that have to heal in order to continue moving. And if you just like any other, just like a superficial wound, if you keep bothering, if you keep going back to that place, then that wound will never heal. And what's promoted my perseverance was faith in God and understanding that God won't put more on you than you can handle. So I think that to continue going, you just have to grit and bear a lot of things and understand that it comes with this. I mean, it all comes with it. Like it comes with the territory. Like you have to know that once you step out on faith, that God might not catch you as soon as you leap, but before you hit the ground, there will be some comfort in that journey. So I wake up every day and I pray and I ask God for another day just to be me. And I get to go out and show the world like what falling and standing back up and fall 8, get up 9, you fall, and you continue pushing and just having that faith that God put us here for a reason. Like it's so easy to be regular. Like not saying that, everyone isn't extraordinary in their own rights, but I think that sometimes people, when I talk and have conversations with people and they look in awe, like, why do you try to do all of that? I'm like, well, I could have stayed selling cars for the rest of my life. I was had a good 6-figure job, sitting down, selling cars. I didn't even have to pay for. I didn't have to pay no bills or nothing at the dealership. I had a nice air-conditioned office. They gave me inventory to just sit there. All I had to do was make a Facebook post and people would come in and just let me sell. I'm talking about they'd be dying to let me sell them a car, but I didn't feel fulfilled. I made good money, but I think that until we align ourselves, just because you're good at something doesn't mean that's what you're supposed to do for the rest of your life. Yeah, I think that's what my perseverance has come from, because I had to drag myself out to bed to get to that 6-figure job every morning because I didn't feel fulfilled. So I think that your perseverance is also attached to your alignment and getting where God wants you to be.
Your purpose.
Yeah,
about your purpose.
Right. Until that
purpose
is a propeller. Like that's a divine interaction between you and whatever higher being you believe in. But I think that that's a huge part of persevering and continuous growth is getting in alignment with that.
If you are here on a journey that, because you said that the perseverance on your journey is what had, or from what you've been through, it actually got to making you push harder. Do you believe that you would even walk a life or get to this portion without all of that? Because for one, how could you? Because you couldn't be able to have that mastermind connection to the people. I think the reason why I'm asking that is because I feel like relationships had to be built. Connections had to be made. I think that knowing the people of the streets had to happen. I think that being educated on some fronts has to happen. I think that, job experience has to happen to get you to certain levels. Do you feel that your walk was completely aligned the way it was so you can?
I think a lot of times we may not understand why we're doing what we're doing at that time, but of course, hindsight is always 2020. We can look back like, oh, now I see why I had to go through that because God prepared me.
That's why I said that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And it's like, and of course, direction will always be more important than speed. So just because something isn't happening as soon as we expect for it to happen doesn't mean that God is preparing us for this place. So yeah, like I said, I think that all things said were, and all things that I've done and had to endure and had to go through, even with the recent loss of my mom, like I would have never been husband material as long as I was so much of a mama's boy. I'll be honest with you. I would, because I'm not going to put nobody before my mom. I just wouldn't have never done it. But even
you would have.
Being honest, I was way too much.
And I think I'm stuttering because sometimes you're right, Terrance. Yeah. It may not always be what you expect it to be to happen to make you get to the next level, but it might be stuff like that has to happen for you to get to where you're trying to go because of certain connections. Because that your connection with your mama probably was a good connection, but it probably wasn't the best connection.
You know, in order
To
to
prepare you, you know, to so
and you just understand like pain is all a part of the process. And like you say, most black men, we never stop and embrace those chapters of our life. We try to just close the book and keep going. And like no, until we stop and start embracing. A lot of times, like even with like I said, with the loss of my mom, like at the time I tried to just keep going like nothing happened. Like I had a brother that just kept working. But now it's like I'm happy that I did sit down for a minute and take time to really reflect on, you know, what is the positive in this situation? Like, what have I gained? What have I learned through the situation? And then I was able to start celebrating the life that she lived. But as long as I skipped over the painful part of the process, I wasn't able to learn from that experience.
Yes,
or to see how I could grow through what I had to go through. Because in life, you're gonna go through things. It's up to you to go through them.
Yeah, and it's good that you actually figured that out before, earlier, and then later, because you would have had to come right back and go through that pain. Even if it was 10 years later, you would have had to come right on back and go through it. And
you had to deal with it. You had to deal with it.
So it's good that you dealt with it as early as you have done. Because when I seen you and I seen that your mom, I was like, this man's still going.
And it's still a process.
Still going.
It's a process.
Yeah, it is.
But like, yeah, you have to deal with those things. Like I said, suppress.
That's a real. That was what you just said was really prolific, because I've never heard a person say that, for one. Especially using a death example as a way that they had to kind of go to their next level. A lot of us don't feel that way. We don't feel that way. Some of us don't connect ourselves with the fact that we here, we gonna leave. Some of us don't have that connection to understand it. You know what I'm saying? So that was prolific. I'm gonna get off of that though, but that was very prolific. Give and one more thing I'm gonna ask you before we get out of here.
And I got a question for you after she asks you this.
Oh no, go ahead, Queen, because this question is the last question.
Well, a couple of years ago, this probably was right when y'all started Working Class Wednesday. I remember Brandon Mickens shared this post, and it was talking about the 10 top cities that is going to be influential to Black-owned businesses, and Tallahassee was in the top 5. Once you started Working Class, Working Class Wednesday was going on, because I remember doing Working Class Wednesday when y'all first started out. Like to see the growth is amazing. Do you see that growth from that article that I said? From that article, do you see that growth with you doing Working Class Wednesdays, and where you at now, going into county commissioner and all of that?
I think that Tallahassee has everything it needs to be that city, especially for people, not just people of color, but an all-inclusive community. We have a college town, people from all over the country. We have a 35% African-American population here. So we got enough Black folks to make change. We've had Black leadership. We've had 2 Black mayors in my lifetime, like we have all of the tools and the economy to support Black business. And I think that one of the biggest things that why I started Working Class Wednesday, when I looked around from a community standpoint, I didn't see the platforms in place to help those businesses grow. But it seems like as soon as I started Working Class Wednesday and people ahead of me start noticing, they started attaching. Like, I didn't know what OEV was. I didn't know we had 2 minority chambers here.
I found that out during.
I didn't know that either. But
until I started Working Class Wednesday, I had no idea that we had minority chambers here. Didn't even know what that was. So it's like we have to build a table and sit people accordingly. We need the right people at the table with these connections to the community in order for us to grow. Because right now, I'm gonna tell you what we have in this community. And a lot of people disagree with what I'm saying, but I say it is what it is. We have a community of colored folks that aren't from here that now represent our communities.
That's true.
Because they have the wherewithal to get in front of the folks that, when people are passing things out, they know how to get in front of those people. And we have to, us people in this community, from this community, in order for the entire community to grow, we have to reach back to those people as well. We can't just grow from a college graduate level and up, because that is not the complete demographic of this community. That's your question. Do we have what it takes? Absolutely. I was doing some research the other day on a place called Pine Bluff, Arkansas. They like a 80% black African American population out there in Pine Bluff, Arkansas. Black businesses everywhere. It's like the Tulsa. It's like the Black Wall Street. And I think that the stigma between black population and crime and all these other things, if we overlook the economic portion of that stigma and understand that when you have black businesses in black neighborhoods hiring black people so that the black dollar is circulating within those neighborhoods, then crimes go down. You get better schools, you get better teachers, you get better public transportation, you get better parks, you get better sidewalks, you get better everything. Because right now we want to talk about the black dollar not circulating in our communities. Where are we going to circulate it at? Right now, most of our black neighborhoods are food deserts. Shout out to the black restaurants and restaurateurs that are in our neighborhoods. But where are these black dollars supposed to circulate? Retail stores at an all-time low in black communities. I mean, where are we going to circulate them at? So that's why I drive home the importance of black, not only just black businesses. We need more black businesses in black neighborhoods. So that when those little kids walk into the bus stop, they see Miss Mary with the beauty salon. They see Mr. Charles.
Exactly.
They get themselves in that position so that then we can matriculate more entrepreneurs and more black business owners to cultivate generational wealth in our community. So when you ask, is Tallahassee that? Could it be that place? Absolutely.
Thanks.
Absolutely. But there's some changes that's going to take place in order for us to, expound on that.
And it said it in the article that in the next 5 to 10 years that it will be that.
And
I was like, wow.
It's gonna be bombastic regardless on certain levels. But is it gonna be bombastic in our areas is the question.
And that's the thing that we have to be careful of, because right now we have a lot of infrastructure coming in to our communities of color. Millions of dollars. They're dumping more money. It's scary in a sense, but at the same time, you have to participate in the change, because we can't just scream gentrification every time development happens, especially when we are abandoning our own communities. Like, this is a college town. We have a lot of college graduates from right here in Tallahassee, and when we don't retain talent very well, they leave. And then even culturally in the black community, the key to your success is making it out the hood.
Yeah,
making it out the hood. So we grow up, we get a little money, get a little education, and we move away from our neighborhood. And then 20 years later, we look back and the neighborhood don't belong to us no more. Well, you left it.
Right back in, and they'll be like, "Oh my God!"
Like, we talk about all these millionaires that are being created at these institutions. Like, who is coming back and investing in our communities? Like, and then when they become not our communities anymore, I mean, you can't gentrify occupied dwellings. Like, nobody is putting people out their house to buy their house. No, these houses are empty. And I think that there's a lot of moving pieces to that conversation, because we have a
lot of education come with that, Terrance. So that's what those when we see you in office and those monthly meetings and those conversations, they cannot just be informal or informational meetings. They can also be technical meetings, educational meetings. We teaching people what's happening so that they can be prepared, because not only are we growing on a level of community growth and infrastructure, we got crypto starting, we got the wave of technology. Our older generations are being left behind. They gonna get robbed blind by the younger generations if they don't know what's going on.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Right. So it's like we got a lot of informational things that we need to do for our communities. And we could talk about this forever, because there are so many programs in place for community development and community growth. It's just not completely going to be handed to you. You got to do the research. You got to seek the information. But I do believe that you made some very, very key points. So in your responses to all of the questions that we did ask you, I skipped around a little bit, but I wanted to basically ask you some of the direct ones that will give our viewers, listeners, once we put this on our page, on our website, also the not a little bit more understanding of who you are and what you're trying to do, because that's important. If we want people to vote,
Please vote.
So
I'm telling you.
we need you to be registered.
Right.
Nobody's suppressing anybody in Tallahassee, y'all.
Right.
So let's go ahead and line up. I'm speaking directly into the mic for y'all.
Register now.
Yes, now. Right. In all seriousness, we need, because we got some new roles that need to be filled. Yeah. What's next?
What's next is we out campaigning. We knocking on doors, getting ready. We got a Working Class Wednesday next week on the 23rd. We'll be back at the Edison Restaurant. It's our Women's History Month celebration. Everyone is all women-owned businesses are absolutely free to come out and set up an event, provided you bring your own table. So we're gonna have some free hors d'oeuvres right there in the heart of downtown Cascade Park. Gonna have some dynamic speakers come out, and as far as the campaign, we have canvassing dates that are about to be announced. We started in Jake Gaither Park about 2 weeks ago. We knocked on, I think, 330 doors on one Sunday, myself and volunteers. So campaigns are one on the ground. Like, we got a lot of talk right now.
They are one on the ground.
Money don't vote. Now you can't go out and purchase votes. Of course, you can buy billboards and everything else, but even that inventory is very low. I think Phasing and Brooks got all the billboards, so and they ain't letting them go. So you got to work. I mean, we're gonna do the work. So we campaigning. We got another campaign fundraiser coming up next month. We'll be at Soulful over there with Chef Shack. Still supporting my Black-owned businesses throughout this race. So we running Capital Connections each and every Friday at 12 o'clock p.m. on Heaven 98.3. I got my sister Erica Cromartie will be on there this Friday with me. Yeah,
my girl. I see you had my pastor on there too, Pastor Nikki. So yeah.
Okay, yeah. I try to celebrate my people, man. You know, right now awesome. We got this. We have I go to a lot of meetings. I see the same people.
Yeah,
I'll be honest. I see the same people every meeting. So I just want to shed light on. It's a lot of people in Tallahassee doing dynamic.
It is a lot of people.
Circle of people, and I just want to help bring everybody up, man. So yeah, if I get a chance to shed some light on somebody that's doing some remarkable things, that's what we're doing. So yeah, we're gonna keep praying and we're gonna keep pushing.
That's what's it.
That's wonderful. I'm very, very happy to hear that. The what's next? He shared it out for y'all. They'll be at the Edison next Wednesday. Next month they'll be at Soulful with Chef Shack. Y'all make sure y'all come. That's March and April. Everything else you'll probably see me sharing on our page.
Right,
when they start, promoting that. But right now, March and April. I don't know, I got to check with Queen, but I think we may actually come out and do Working Class Wednesday next Wednesday. Come out and be like a little small vendor table. Tell people a little bit about the podcast a little bit. So if we do that, we will not be live. Next Wednesday, we'll probably play one of our recorded shows from our summer podcast tour. So we got a lot of people. We still got a lot of them shows to go. But y'all, we got a lot of people. Exactly. We be wanting to be live though, so I haven't had time to even
play your show.
And then we get ready to all over again.
I got shows to play, y'all.
Shows for days.
Right.
So next Wednesday, more than likely, you guys will get a wonderful interview show from the summer podcast tour, because we're gonna probably go. We're not gonna do a show next week at all. If we do that, we'll just be out as a real vendor at WCW, just to kind of.
I love it.
I ain't been in a long time.
We ain't been in a while.
And I used to vent all the time.
Yeah, I see you. I don't see you no more.
Man, busy. Just busy with a whole bunch of other things that's going on and stuff. So, then this every Wednesday. So
right.
This is literally every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday.
We don't shut down.
Schedule Wednesday shut down for anything.
Yeah. So we be busy. We I like busyness though, because an idle mind is the devil's playground, and I don't play like that.
Gotta keep going.
Yes. So thank you so much, Terrance, for joining us.
Yes, appreciate it.
You really gave the people perspective today, and that's what we do in our interviews. We want you to let people know who you are, and yes, his name. His nickname probably in the street still T City. when you see
Well, I
When
always
you
know
see,
you as
when
Terrance.
you
I
see
didn't know you
Mr.
was
Terrance, when you see
know
Mr.
what
Terrance
Captain
Barber
America
out
is.
now, you call him Terrance Barber. That's who he
Right.
is today.
And he made me
You
miss the Terrance to some of
It
y'all.
used to be business. You feel me? You feel me? Like respect the people for where they are now. That's
Most
that's my
definitely.
that's my point
Most
of that.
definitely.
Respect us for where we are now. I don't 5 minutes ago, let it go. Let it go.
Most definitely. Let it go.
That's it. You know. So thank y'all for tuning in today. We
Yes.
appreciate you all so much because y'all always represent for us. I know this is one of them interview shows, so y'all got to watch and listen today versus give so much feedback. But thank you. Y'all are always appreciated. Thank you, Mr. Barber, for taking out your time to, you know, give us a little bit of your give us a little bit of what you're doing out there in the community and working for us. We look forward to your continued work for your community and your continued success. Queen.
Man, keep doing you, man. Like we probably look. Claire's then told me to tell Terrance to do his thing. Tell him I'm praying for him and I believe in him. So
Appreciate it.
Man, we got you over here, man. So we like what you're doing and keep doing it because you just don't know. You making a difference in somebody.
Yes.
Right.
And we're trying to get a shirt though. So let us know what we need to do to get one of them shirts.
Oh, I got
look, so we can represent.
I'll bring up next Wednesday.
We trying to we try to represent. We try to represent. Thank you.
I need a sign and all that.
Yeah, we
got even in that district, but I need a sign and all that to put out here in my yard.
We got
it. That's right. That's right. You take care of your family. Keep doing what you're doing, my brother, and be strong.
And congratulations in your
community and be strong in your faith.
Thank you. Thank y'all so much.
We appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll see y'all not next Wednesday, but the Wednesday after next. We will be back live in the studio, SW Podcast. We love y'all. We like y'all. We appreciate y'all so much. But peace.
We gotta go.
We out of here.
Bye.
Oh.